Parv was a good sport. Whenever our family visited my father-in-law in St. Louis, he encouraged us to play games. We frequently played Pit, a spirited, commodities-based card game, or Spoof, an equally fast-paced game. Win, lose, or draw, he was ready to be set up for another game, and Parv would play on. Sometimes he would play doubled up on, or otherwise at a disadvantage. He could consistently lose. Still, Parv would continue to play. When my husband Jim won, Dick would laugh and say that the mark of a good father was when his son improved on him. His mantra was, quote, "It isn't whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game." Parv was also an avid Scrabble player. Still a good sport, he played a very competitive Scrabble game. Parv and Jim would play late into the night, making clever moves. Kay and Parv were also known to play Scrabble. Parv also enjoyed the more physically active game of horseshoes. His play with his now late brother, or Uncle Bob, is particularly memorable. They had completely different styles, but were pretty evenly matched. Parv and Uncle Bob were both good players. When my son Todd was in his tennis prime, he took on his granddad doing some tennis volleying. Parv was in his 80s then and had bad knees, but Todd was impressed by his granddad's play. Jim's parents gave us our ping pong table. On Parv's visit to our house playing against Jim or Todd, again Parv in his 70s or 80s, he demonstrated that he could play a mean game of table tennis. With the start of the baseball season, I think of Parv. He generally wasn't one for gambling. However, when the baseball season was getting underway, Parv and Jim would bet on the Chicago Cubs and the St. Louis Cardinals. If the Cubs triumphed over the Cards in the final baseball standings, Jim owed his dad a hot fudge sundae. When the Cards beat the Cubbies, Parv would award the sundae to Jim. The week before Parv passed away, we visited Parv in the Missouri boot heel, and Jim had a chance to pay up his ice cream debt to his dad. Among other things, I'll miss the animated baseball telephone conversations with my father-in-law, Richard J. Parvis.
There are a few Parvisms out there, and one of those sayings that I remember him for is, "There's more than one spoke to the wheel." Now, we had several spokes to the wheel heard so far. Let me add a few others. It is almost exactly 25 years ago that I entered the Parvis home in St. Louis for the first time. Their daughter Laurie and we had gotten serious with each other, and we were thinking about getting married. So it was about time to present myself to the family. It was a hot summer day. At the end of June in 1983, I attended a conference in Williamsburg, Virginia, and took a few days to drive to St. Louis. From the first moment, I felt welcome, not as a stranger, but as a friend. It did not take much time to realize that this was the way that people were greeted in the Parvis family. It was this combination of warmth, respect, humanity, which was coming from deep inside, which made people comfortable. Regardless of age, of gender, race, origin, people were welcome as humans in the first place, with their own talents, their culture, their backgrounds, their temperament and originality. Richard Parvis gave everybody the feeling that he or she is respected for what they were. Soon after my first visit, our family started to spend time together. My parents came over to the US for their first time. Dick and Kay visited us in Germany, where Laurie and I started our own family in the tradition of the Parvis family. Now, it was quite common that we got also phone calls in the middle of the night from students of Parv. And I remember one time when we got that call, and it was a student who actually came from the southern parts of Africa, and he spent some time in Germany, and our address and telephone number were obviously given to him, and he called us up, and the next morning I went to the train station to meet him. Now, he gave me some indication how to recognize him. And he said, well, I'm looking like an Indian, but I'm not Indian. So that was the only thing I knew about him. So I went to the train station. At the time the train should arrive, the train came in, and out of the train stepped about 50 people looking Indian. So it took us a while to find us, but finally we recognized each other. Don't ask me how we did that, but there seemed to be that Parvis spirit about him that made us recognize each other. And we had a wonderful day and a half together. I toured him around my part of the country, and it was marvelous. And this is, I think, the example that Richard Parvis has told us how he treated people and he wanted people to be treated. Now, we had long evenings together when we had our times together discussing all different issues from around the world. We were listening to the stories Dick had to tell about the time his family spent in Africa and in India. And I will never forget that story that you've mentioned, Jim, about the army ants that were threatening that small group of Richard and his students during the night in the bushes of Africa. There was a very vivid experience that we all had through his talking and his telling. He was an American at heart, but he also had something which we all, regardless of our nationalities, should have much more of. A sense for reaching out to other cultures and their people, an ability to touch people from all over the world at their hearts and make them feel respected for their very own talents. A true ambassador for that grand idea, all men are created equal. It is a tragedy that his daughter Laurie, my wife, had to leave this world about exactly a year before he passed away. And I will never forget that Dick and Kay, together with their two sons, John and Jim and Barbara, took on the burden to travel to Germany to spend some last few days with their daughter. We miss him for many reasons, for his kindness, for his friendship, for his generosity, and his interest in people. My younger daughter, Semha, will miss his world-class popcorn on Sunday evenings when we're watching movies. And my older daughter, Janina, will surely miss the stories that he was telling at those occasions. I will miss him for his humor, his guidance in a wonderful world, which is quite often unfair. At times, the Professor Parvis may have seemed a little detached from the real world. Those who knew him knew exactly that he wasn't. He had that wonderful ability to reduce the complexity of the world with its problems to the single aspect that matters most and leads to the solutions alone: human relations. His message is, let's not stop talking to each other, and let's not stop listening to each other. We're sad that this wonderful man is not with us anymore, but we're grateful that we had him for such a long time. His kind and generous spirit stays with us. He's not gone. He's just on the other side.